Welcome to Fashion Review. I'm your host, Deborah Cristobal, coming to you from sunny Santa Barbara, California. And today we will be discussing the Emmy Awards. Let me introduce our panelists. First we have Irena Aquaskaya. Hello, darlings. Marguerite Daisy Crimson. Hi, y'all. And Lady Penelope Mauve. Hello, everyone. Okay, and so we are going to be discussing who was the best and worst dressed of the evening. And so for best dressed, Penelope chose Tracy Ellis Ross. She was wearing a hot pink Valentino haute couture off-the-shoulder gown with puffed sleeves and pin-tucked pleats. And she was wearing reposy jewelry. So Penelope, what did you think?
Well, darlings, I loved how voluminous this gown was. The puffy, ruffled detail at the neckline was absolutely gorgeous. And this shade of hot pink, it was so stunning on her. And it very well suited her body because she's very tall and she's a bit slender. And the pin tucks were so delicate. And they just took the dress in just a tiny bit at the waist, and then it kind of gave the little bit of definition for her. And then the bottom was very, very drapey and was a little bit longer, say by a few inches. And so she looked like a modern version of someone who appeared in a painting. She looked like a gorgeous, exotic pink flower, and it was absolutely stunning.
Great. And Irena, what did you think about this gown?
Darlings, I thought it very dramatic. She stood out from crowd. It would be very easy to spot her across the room, and it looked so pretty on her. I like it very much.
Okay, great. And next, for best dressed, we have Penelope Cruz. She was wearing a Chanel haute couture gown. It was a strapless silk tulle, and it had feathers on it, and it had a matching feathered stole. And this took 280 hours to hand embroider. My gosh. Daisy, this is the gown that you chose.
Well, I loved the ethereal feeling of this dress. It literally looked like it was floating on the air. It looked like a fairy tale princess gown, and then it had the feathers on it, and it just looked so fluffy and pretty. And feathers, they are the big trend on the red carpet right now. So she was perfectly on trend, and the color of that, it was sort of a light, real pale icy blue, and it looked really great with her dark olive skin and her dark hair and her big brown eyes. It was just gorgeous.
Great. And we have Irena, you chose Angela Serafian for her gown, which was designed by Christian Siriano. And this was a black crystal-studded strapless gown. It had a sweeping skirt and train. So, Irena, what were your thoughts on this gown?
Darling, this gown was so Audrey Hepburn looking. It looked like a gown that she wore in movie Sabrina. It had sleek cutaway bodice that had curved underarm seam, and then it went straight across bust line, and then it had a very big dramatic skirt, very full skirt, and the crystals on it, very beautiful. It remind me of Starry, Starry Night, so pretty. Look very nighttime movie star, old-fashioned movie star.
Great, Irena. Okay. And now we're moving on to the worst dressed. And Daisy, you actually chose two ladies because you could not make up your mind between these two. So first off, you chose Megan Mullally, who was wearing a Carolina Herrera black chiffon short-sleeved shirt dress, and it had large red and pink tulips on it. So Daisy, go ahead.
Well, she picked this dress herself online, okay? And this is where you get into trouble. It's one thing to buy a pair of shoes or something, but you're picking out a gown for the Emmy Awards. You don't know how it's gonna turn out. Well, this dress had a daytime cut, and what I mean by that, it had just a straight short sleeve, and it was cut like a shirt dress. The only thing dressy about it, and I hate to say this about my beloved Carolina Herrera because, she is one of the most elegant designers and ladies all around the whole world. But this dress did really not suit Megan Mullally. These tulips, the fabric itself was absolutely stunning. The black chiffon with these big pink and red tulips was absolutely gorgeous. But the print was way too large for poor little Megan, who has a beautiful, curvy, very voluptuous figure. And so what happens when you have too big of a print? Well, then it just kind of overwhelms you. And if this would have been me, if my client would have, insisted on wearing a dress like this, well, then I would have just chopped off those sleeves, and then I would have paired it instead of with a gown. I would have paired this with some hot pink or red satin cigarette pants and some cool little maybe marabou mules to go with it. And then it would have had sort of like a Mad Men sort of boudoir look to it. And I think that would have been okay. Maybe I would have shortened the front of it, maybe to like knee length, and then had it be like a mullet and gone down to the ankles in the back. And that way the proportions wouldn't have swallowed her up so much. But that would be how I would have styled it. Okay. And then you also chose Laura Dern, who was wearing a Tom Brown long-sleeved charcoal charmeuse blouse and strapless corset dress that had the coordinating charmeuse piping with a pearl necklace. Okay, now this dress was just wrong all the way around. It looked like something like a sexy secretary or something. Her hair was all curled up, and it just was way too fussy. Now, this hairdo reminded me something about Dolly Parton's little sister or something. Not that I have anything against beautiful Dolly Parton, y'all, but this hairdo was just way too fussy for this gown. Now, what I would have done is I would have piled that hair, left it curly, and then piled it on top of her hair. And then I would have stuck some beautiful little black jeweled clips in to showcase her blonde hair. And then I would have ripped that piping right off that dress. I would have lost the blouse, just take that blouse right off of there because it just was too daytime for the look. And we didn't mention that the dress fabric itself was a charcoal lace. And so I would have added a real cool little short textured jacket, maybe like a little fur or something. I would have done that in maybe a hot pink. And then that little pearl necklace, oh man, that poor little thing, it was such an awkward length. It just landed right in the middle of her chest, and it had no statement at all. It was just so lonesome sitting there all by itself. So what I would have done, I would have started out with a choker, and then I would have gone length by a couple of inches and just piled on those pearls, baby. I would have just covered her in pearls, going all the way from the choker all the way down to her waist, and that would have helped cover up part of the dress, y'all. And then I would have added some short little ankle boots in a coordinating color. I'm thinking like a hot pink suede would have been so cool. She would have rocked that look out. She's so tall and willowy, and she would have just looked so gorgeous in that little combo. It would have been a little bit more edgy for this night, but I think she could have carried it off because she is a beautiful lady. Okay, and now we have Penelope, who chose Zuri Hall as another of the worst dressed candidates. She was wearing a Sarkis Couture pale peach strapless gown with asymmetrical twisted panels at the top.
Penelope?
Darlings, this poor woman, who is an absolute beauty, she just was covered up in way too much fabric. This gown literally looked like some kind of space creature who was swallowing her up. The color was this kind of pale peach. It was so unflattering to her skin tone. And then these panels looked like they were twisting around like some kind of octopus who couldn't get a grip on what it was doing. They were going in all kinds of different directions, and the poor girl was just swallowed up in mounds and mounds of fabric and these little panels strangling her to death up at the top. It just didn't do the poor woman any justice. And I mean, this is a very beautiful woman we're talking about here.
Okay, well, thanks for your thoughts, Penelope. And Irena, you chose Michelle Wolf, who was wearing a lavender sequined column dress, which featured black cat ear points at the top, black piping outlining her waist, and it also mirrored the cat points at the waistline. It also went along the side seams. So Irena, and we don't have a designer on this one. Irena, what were your thoughts on this dress?
Darlings, this looked like she looked like Catwoman's mother. She needed underneath the dress, and I don't know if she dressed herself or if she have stylist. If she have stylist, that person need to be fired because she needed shapewear padded shapewear underneath. She needs Spanx because you could see her stomach right underneath gown. This was slinky sequin gown. It needs to have smoothness underneath because if you have lumps and bumps, and this girl had a beautiful figure, but this dress, because sequin is it is not forgivable for your body, so you must give it very smooth texture underneath and surface. So you need shapewear and Spanx underneath. So if this was me, I would put her, she have darling figure, very tiny waist, curvy, beautiful shoulders. I would put her in fitted waist silhouette and fuller skirt, more flattering color. This color did not do her any favor. It was sort of lavender, pale lavender, which did not do her any justice. I would have done maybe bright emerald or red or something, maybe in chiffon or something like this, where she could twirl around, she could show off shoulders, and this would have been much more flattering and much more forgiving for a figure. Sequin is good only if you have a plastic body, like maybe plastic surgery or a Barbie doll look, where everything is perfectly smooth underneath.
Okay, thanks, Irena. Now, for honorable mention, we have Millie Bobby Brown. She was wearing Calvin Klein by appointment, and her dress was an off-the-shoulder pale pink dress with rose print, and then it had little bows at the shoulder. It featured a puffy skirt, and she was wearing matching pink kitten heel shoes that had little ankle straps on them. So Daisy, this is who you chose as your favorite honorable mention.
Yes, I love this. Her silhouette was just adorable. The poofy skirt was just so cute. It almost was kind of like a little Bo Peep or like a little Marie Antoinette or something. It just had a darling little innocent look to it, and those little accent bows at the shoulders were just so cute and adorable. And then the rose print printed in black black ink on the pale pink. It had gave it kind of a slightly retro look. And then the kitten heels were just the perfect little length for a young actress. It was just spot on. It looked so cute on her, and it really stood out because it had sort of an innocent look to it. I just loved it. It was one of my favorite looks, and it was very age appropriate for her. Okay, Daisy, thanks. And then Penelope, you chose Tandy Newton, who was wearing a Brandon Maxwell one-shoulder column dress. It featured a neck-draped floor-length scarf, side slit, and she paired that with some silver ankle sandals. Penelope? Darlings, it was lovely. The pink color had a slight purple cast to it, and so that made it on the cooler side, and it looked absolutely beautiful with her skin. I really liked that it was floor length and that the scarf also was almost like a train to the side because it draped across her neck and then it kind of dragged very gracefully on the floor. And she looked so elegant. And it also had, if you were to chop this dress up and made it like a real short mini, you could have gone go-go dancing in it in the 60s, darling. I also liked, I thought the silver sandals were just the perfect shoe to match with that because it gave it a little bit of a contrast, but it didn't take away from the beautiful color of that dress. So I really liked it a lot. Great. Okay. And then Irena, you chose Sandra Oh, who was wearing a Ralph and Russo wide plunging V neckline, and her gown featured embellished short sleeves and a midriff panel that was also embellished. Darlings, I love this dress. This was satin, and the pomegranate color was absolutely amazing. It looked like updated Titanic mixed with Renaissance richness, and it was so very flattering to her frame because she's very, very slim and not a real big bust line, which is good because this neckline was very, very wide cut V, which would look sort of X-rated if you had bigger bust lines. So because her bust is kind of petite, it looked very, very high fashion. And then you take jewel encrusted sleeves, we're absolutely gorgeous. And because again she is slender, she can carry this off because normally these type sleeve, just a plain short sleeve with no gather, it is very unforgiving and very, very hard to wear. Most people, if they wore this kind of sleeve, would look very, very fat, and she did not. And then it also featured inverted pleats at the waistline, and this showcased the richness of the satin. So I really thought this was absolutely very, very the perfect thing for her to wear. Great. Well, thank you, Irena. And thanks, everyone, for joining us. I am your host, Deborah Cristobal, coming to you from sunny Santa Barbara, California. So subscribe to our podcast, and you won't miss any new episodes. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. And wherever you listen to podcasts, you can also follow me on Instagram. I'm at Deb Etoile. Okay, so that's at Deb Etoile, and that's DEBETOILE. So follow me on Instagram and catch us for the next time. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.